All right, guys, as I mentioned in the previous video, we are going to be working on my bench press. And I think there's this misconception that's still out there that the bench press, there's not a lot of things involved, right? You just bring the bar down, push up, it's that easy. No, you're wrong. We got a lot of things to say about the bench, and Dave, what are you going to put me through today with this?
I'm going to have Joey go through a dynamic bench workout. Some people call it a speed bench workout. I look at it a few different ways. You know, in the video that we did earlier, we talked a little bit about the technical aspect. I also look at it as a technique, a training, technique reinforcement, technique development. Because it's lighter weight, you can make the corrections, and it's not so heavy that you have to be in a completely different mind place to be able to get it done. So a lot of the adjustments, if need be, will be made then, and then they can be reinforced during that time period. So when you're looking at that, the dynamic effort method, yes, it's defined a lot of different ways, but it should be utilized. I'd rather have somebody do that, go through a dynamic effort training session or a very lightweight training session to help with technique, and then potentially work up to max, you know, because that way you can find technical weak points and physical. I won't have you do that today. That's kind of what I have people doing during the train your ass off thing. I don't suggest doing it that way because it could be a little bit different. But by the time we're done, we should have a pretty good indication, bench wise, you know, from that specificity, what needs to be done to be able to bring the bench up and to dial in the technique as well. So I always suggest everybody start with the bar. And now with the bar, you're not going to apply maximum force. I don't want your shoulder blades flying off the bench. You know, it's the first set. So just move it at whatever speed you normally do. And what I'll do is I'll watch your technique. Usually I try not to watch anybody do the bar because it frustrates me, because this is when you'll see most of the shit that's really, really bad. Go ahead and keep going. Now, some of the things that I look at while he's pressing, I'm looking at where the elbow position is going to be with the bench pad. If his elbows are going lower than the pad, I want to bring it up a little bit. That way I can shorten the range of motion and the movement of the shoulder capsule. I'm also looking to see, I'm not looking so much with the leg drive because he's not doing a lot there now. I'm going to make sure the grip is even, and make sure the feet are kind of even. Just body position, I want to make sure it's all where it needs to be. And then at the top, there's not over pressing of the barbell and rack height and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things being looked at one time to try to narrow down where I need to look more in each set going up. Does that feel all right?
Yeah.
If it feels a little weird with the bar, then you just repeat.
Yeah,
right?
No, I felt good.
We'll go a quarter per side.
Cool. You only use quarters here.
Well, yeah. If the weight gets heavy enough, you got to kind of default to the old way. But by using the quarters, you know, for the intermediate lifters and it makes them take smaller jumps. There's more work capacity being developed as you work up. There's more sets, there's more technical reps compared to a plate, you know, like people would do. You lose a lot of work.
Is there ever a time here where there is no method to the madness?
Not really.
That was a trick question.
I'm also looking to see how he takes the bar out, where he took it out while he scraped the J cups on the way out. And I'm looking at the lat engagement to make sure it's stable. And it's stable. And as the weight goes up, I'll start looking more at the legs, start looking more at the bracing. One thing that you can see, and it may change, is the barbell is a little bit behind his forearm, so it's not stacked over the elbow where it needs to be. So it's another reason to do a lot of warm-up sets if you're coaching an athlete or if you're working with somebody, because there's a lot of things that you're going to see that I'm making mental notes of. Some of these things will just go away when the weight gets heavier. Right, because it's light, you know. So and you, most of these things you already know. It probably gets tightened up as the weight gets heavier. But once we get to like 135, that old rule comes into play of treat light weights like they're heavy and heavy weights like they're light. So because then that's where the technique and everything starts to come in with that.
And just disclaimer for me with history, I don't really bench press much. I utilize the bench to help any way I can with my overhead press for strongman. So benching variations are going to be a lot of close grip, more like incline type stuff. But that's it. So like when it comes to my grip is typically a lot more narrow than when you see guys going wider, just because like I said, I try to transfer that specifically to strongman. So I do have this weird goal at some point in my life to just hit a 500-pound raw bench. And I feel like to do that, I'm going to have to really understand the technique, you know, figure out what works best for my setup, my body type, etc. So this is kind of like foreshadowing down the road that I can rewatch this video and kind of, even for myself, but as coaching too, like what's his thought process as a coach? Like how is he analyzing athletes? Because the main thing is there's systems here, and we can take those systems and utilize them. So it's a lot that I'm learning right now.
Okay, the note that he just made about using it for strongman and the close grip, that's important to know, because that's going to change the elbow position in relation to the bench pad as we move forward, because the closer grip is going to have more shoulder rotation, which is fine. That tells me I'm not going to move your grip out, because I do agree that the closer grip is going to have greater transference to the strongman than what the wider grip is going to be. But we're still going to want to get a little higher, because there is too much shoulder rotation on that. But it also throws in other things too of what your accessory exercises can be to be able to carry over that may end up being the second movement. We'll see how things progress here.
Yeah, I like that.
From that. So let's throw another plate on. So again, for the people watching, when he takes it out, you're going to see he pulls the bar out, kind of like, hold on, kind of like a dumbbell pull over. So he's pulling it out. You can see that because it's scraping the J cup. So most of my J cups in here, the paint's like scraped off of that because of that. What you don't want to do is to press. You don't want to go boom this way back and hit, and you don't want to go up either. It should be more of a pull out type of thing, and that is to keep the lats engaged. See, now I'm just seeing how tight his legs and his abdominals are, and it can be tighter. Again, it can be because it's just 135, but go ahead and rack it. We're going to stay there because 135 for him is a good enough light weight to be able to start working on a lot of these things, to be able to get it. So when I come to try to, I should not be able to move your knees either in nor out.
Yeah, you moved them.
Yeah, so and some of it's just not paying attention, but if it's, let's say it doesn't happen on your heavy weights, but you just reinforced it being loose here. You see what I'm saying? So when you're talking about technique, again, with your lacrosse players, how often do you want to see them reinforce bad habits?
Yeah, none.
You know, so granted, if it's 95 or the bar, you don't want to focus on that too much, but on these, you want to focus on that. And then when he's pulling the bar out, you're seeing that there's there's instability. It's again because it's light, you know, so as it gets heavier, that will go away when he's pulling it out. But you are stopping and holding before you lower, which is good, because a lot of people will come out and then just fall down through that. So do this again. You don't need to do a lot, just 3-5 maybe, and then focus on your leg. Just try to push your feet into the ground as hard as you can, and we'll see what happens there. Key thing is I shouldn't be able to move, because see, if I go this way, your whole body will twist. Like, let's try to push through your toes now. That's a little bit better. Move your feet forward some. Now try to push through your toes. All right, see, now I can't twist you. Take your feet back again, where you normally feel comfortable. See how that twist is waist more? Bring it just out a little bit. What we're looking for is everything to be stable so it doesn't move. Now whatever you do with your feet, I don't care. You can just try to push them in the floor. You can try to drive your toes through the front. As long as it keeps this here, I'm not so worried about this movement. This is what we're trying to not have move.
Huh.
All right.
I've really never paid attention to that as much as I just did, to be honest with you. Usually I always used to get my feet back here.
And that's fine, and that works for a lot of people. Now if you can do that and not have that turn,
right? Does that feel weaker? Okay.
Yes, because if that's turning, if I'm able to twist and turn that with just that little bit of pressure, you know, you're losing that force coming back through there and tightness.
And I can already tell this is going to help push me back on that leg drive, which is what everybody talks about.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Good. So now lock the legs. Good. Just do a couple. All right. Good. Now hold it at the top. Now I want you to take your rib cage and bring it up towards me, like your sternum higher. Now do a couple in that position. Get the legs tight. Up. 1. Good. Now if you do one more rep, just kind of relax just a little bit. Okay. Now get tight again. Bring your sternum, rib cage up. Watch where his elbows are when he goes down now. Go down in relation to the bench and up. Good. Back. And so where we're at is it's come up from where he started from.
It felt a lot better.
Yeah, and we haven't done anything with lats or any of that at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like a lot of times people talk about like leg drive, you should be feeling like you're pushing yourself back on the bench. And to be honest with you, I never really felt that way, but I think it's because adjusting my feet positioning to actually utilize the force of my legs properly, now it's making me feel that.
Yes.
So
the goal is you want the skin. Jan Blakely showed this one time, and I thought it was a great cue. See how my skin moves?
Yeah.
You want your back skin on the bench to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? So
okay. That's good. That's really good. We're learning. But that, what you're saying, that cleared up the issue with what had happened on the last one.
Yes.
What was the issue I was having?
What with the last one?
Yeah.
The legs.
Oh, okay.
Just the movement of the legs. Just turning all that, put your body in position that sets the torso for me to start saying, now let's get your ribs bigger.
Okay.
Right, like get your ribs bigger, get your torso, upper body bigger. That's going to shorten the stroke too.
Okay.
But it's also going to tighten your upper body,
Yeah.
which is going to allow more force to go into the pad and more stability.
Key word is force. I felt like I had more force to drive the bar.
Yes. Now I can try to, without doing any of that, I can just try to go straight to ribs up, ribs up, ribs up, and it's not going to make that much difference because it's still going to be moving too much. You're not going to be in a position that's going to allow that to open up the way it needs to open up unless this is all braced.
So just from a coaching perspective, a question I have is like, do you always go from like ground up? Is that what you look at, or does it not necessarily matter?
On the bench, I look at everything.
Okay.
Right, because if the grip's uneven, if this isn't stable, there could be some things which you didn't have that are just wrapped around the fact of not squeezing the bar hard.
Yeah.
You know, things like that I want to. That's a low-hanging fruit I want to take care of. But once those really, really obvious things are taken care of, then I'm going to go from the feet and the legs and then move through.
Cool.
All right, so we'll go to, now the question then becomes, if we're going to get into dynamic work, how much weight to use for speed work. So there's flat waves, you know, if you look at conjugate where the same weight will be used all the time, maybe add chains or bands and so forth. So it never changes. The whole time I was at Westside, it rarely ever changed. The weight was the same, it was just the other shit that changed around that. Or you can have waves, you know, 3-week waves. And some people may say 50%, 60%, 70, 55, they're all over the place, right? So what we're gonna do is, the easiest way I found with people that don't know what percent to use is we're gonna find a weight that's probably around 40%, which we're not even close to being there yet. That's the next jump we're gonna take is gonna be like 200 pounds. That might be kind of getting there. I want you to try to push with as much force as you can. So everything's gonna be locked down, everything's gonna be tight, then try to move it as fast as you can. Now, if it feels like, no, this is still way too stupid light, then don't. But what I'm looking for is we're gonna make small jumps after that, because your max bench is, what is it now?
Somewhere between 450 and 500.
So it's 450 and 500. So it's probably going to be a set after this one. But actually we'll still do it with this one. Because what might happen on this one is it's going to look like shit, right? Because everything's just going to, it's going to be too light, right? But what I want the people to see is we're going to make smaller jumps as we move up. So we're not going to use the same weight for all speed work. We're going to add a little weight each set, right? And then what we're going to find out, this is too light, this is too light, this is too light, this looks good. Technically sound, it's moving with good speed. Then we keep working up, we keep working up, we keep working up. Oh, this now is starting to break down, it's too slow. And then what we're left with is a percent range, which could be your 3-week wave broke down right there, based upon you. Now we don't have to use the Tendo unit, we don't have to use any measuring device, we don't have to look at this book or look at this book. This is you. This is where you're applying the most force.
All right, cool.
So it's like 195. So feet tight, good. Ribs up, ribs up, ribs up, higher, 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 higher. There, good. Now, 3. Up fast. Boom, up fast. You gotta go faster than that. I know you're faster than that. There you go. Faster, good. There you go, good.
That feels weird.
Okay, so.
I'm not used to moving that fast.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you do that again because that wasn't what I was looking for. The first one was a little, I want to see boom, boom, boom.
I'm too slow.
Yes, that.
But he said the same thing last time with squats.
Yes.
I'm too controlled.
Yeah, so we're looking for that explosiveness. Keep in mind too, when you're talking about, here's another aspect when it comes to technical acuity learning technique. When you teach the kids with lacrosse, you first show them, right? Yeah. So they can see it. Some people are visual learners, some people are audio learners, and then they're gonna go through at a slower speed. As they begin to master the movement, then you're going to move them faster speeds, right? To see if they can still maintain that technique, right? Now, if they can't, you take them back down to that slower speed, right? Then you're going to move them at that faster speed, fatigued.
Yeah.
You know, so it may be, sometimes you may have them do, you know, gassers or whatever it's going to be, and then just bring them back. Hey guys, real quick. Then they just do some technique work. Can they still do this with technique as they're gassed? Right, that's a higher level. Then the higher level is now, can they do this under technique while they're gassed and there's only a couple minutes left in the game and they're down, gassed with stress, right? So it's a whole process, right? So your bench form is not going to be the issue. Now, can your bench form be maintained with speed? You see what I'm saying? Because that's part of that skill acquisition process. It's again going back to like with other sports, there's a skill acquisition process that leads to that mastery. You know, the mastery is when they can do it without even thinking. It's just completely automatic, and the stress doesn't bother them, the fatigue doesn't bother them. Not Michael Jordan winning that, nothing bothers them. That's the highest level, right? But with a lot of lifters, they're not even on the path to try to obtain that. Because they just do the same thing over and over. So this one here, try to press all three. Good. Hold. Ribs, ribs, ribs. Higher, higher. There. Go. Hit it. Up. Good. Hit it. Gun. Hit it. Good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that might be, because that didn't get like substantially faster, right? So I had you repeat it because the last set could have just been like a fluke. You didn't know what you were doing. So what I'll do is I mark the plate, you know, as we move up, because this could be, if you wanted to run a 3-week conjugate wave or dynamic effort wave, 195 may be week 1.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? As we keep going up, at some point in time, that speed is going to slow down. And then that will be, so I don't know what percentage this is. 195 off of, say, 455, that's under 50%. You know, so you would be, that, I don't know what the math is on that, say it's 45%. That may be week 1 with that. It also may be you just don't have, you're not connecting the dots to it, to where it could be a different thing where you would use this weight for a couple weeks, then when it just feels like you can throw it through the ceiling, you'll be done with it and go to the next one. Let's try to get the ribs set before you pull out. So really, really high, keep the ass down, feet, good. Ribs up, there, go, fast. Hit it, faster, up, good, there you go, up, good, all right, good. Good, legs tight, ribs up. So your legs are good, so just pull out. So out, tight, ribs up, ribs up. No, you gotta do better than that. Rib cage up.
Right there?
Yeah, I'll help you. Go ahead and pull it out again. So ready, out, get this high, 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 there, good. Now drop it faster. Hit it, there you go, down, up, good, down, up, good. Whoa. Cool, so that's 245, so now we're talking.
I was just being too slow, dude. Too slow. Gotta be fast, gotta be explosive.
4 weeks or 5 week phases with it, and cycle. The same thing we're doing here.
And during those 3, 4, 5 weeks, it's the same weight, or how do you manage the load?
You can do it however you want, right? For you, I like to have people cycle it.
Okay.
Now, if they're total beginners, I'll keep it the same.
Okay.
I will keep the weight exactly the same until the technical mastery comes in. Then we can talk later at the end about the chains and bands. Then I may put chains on it because it's only going to change it at the top. It's not going to change it at the bottom.
Okay.
And then I may wave them into bands after that. Maybe, maybe not. More likely, I'm going to increase the weight, go straight weight again, and then 3 weeks there, and then put potentially the chains.
Okay. Gotcha.
If I had to tell somebody what to do.
Yeah.
If they're in here, I'm just going to adjust based upon how they look that day.
Okay.
Yeah, so this up, ribs up, good. Drop fast. Hit it, good. You gotta hit it fast. Hit it, good. Hit it, good. Yep. Do you have wrist wraps?
I do.
And so what he's doing is his wrist is the barbell, his wrist is cocking back so the barbell is away from the forearm. I'm having him wrist just to be able to keep that in line with the forearm so it's not back behind. Right, hold, get this high, 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 good. Drop, press fast. Up, 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 down, up, up. Good, okay. Now, you see there and you felt it there. No matter what you could do, you're not going to be able to press that as fast as with the last weight press. Right, so this is 285. So that's out of your, if I'm watching this, I'd say that's out of your dynamic effort range, right? So if we go back, that very first weight that I marked here, that was 195. That was probably too light because I wasn't cueing you to lower faster. Faster, yeah. Right? So your wave's going to be, basically, after that we did 225 because we had the dime and the 5. So 225 to this here is 245, 255, 265. So 225 to 265 is your range for that explosive power development based upon how you felt, what we saw with bar speed. Not using any devices or anything like that. So your question was, then what do I do with that, right? So you can break that up over 3 weeks, and that's a 3-week wave where that's what you would cycle through. And then that would be your speed work. What do you do after the 3 weeks? You can either cycle it through again, right? Or you can cycle into, I like to have people go to chains after that, because the chains don't change the weight at the bottom, only at the top. You're going to be stronger at the top. So if it's just 1 or 2, probably for you 2 chains per side, at the top it might be 40, 50 pounds, because half of it's all got to come off at the bottom. If this chain's still hanging on the bar while you're at the bottom, then you may as well have more weight on the bar, where that would throw it out of that range. So you want it off at the bottom. So I would use the same weight, but just put 2 chains per side, cycle through that, trying to match that speed. Then that's got 6 weeks there. At that point in time, though, as we were discussing, I would think more on how to cycle it in on 3-week waves, and then moving off the movement to some overhead press or something that's going to fit your strongman, if that's what your aspirations are. Right, and then go back. So you would basically cycle a vertical press with a horizontal press back to the vertical press. Now, are the percentages going to be the same with the vertical press? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I would say just do the same thing. Because you still got a training session out of it. We're going to go down and hit mid position, so the 245 for a few more sets, just so you get an idea to drop a little bit faster.
Like you said, the main point during those other weeks is to maintain bar speed as it would be right now. So when we add the chains or we add the band, we want to keep
the chains definitely you should be able to.
Okay.
Now if you add the band, there's a little caveat with that. You got to figure out how much tension the band has at the bottom. So say you have a mini band that's choked on there, it might have 30 or 40 pounds at the bottom. That has to come off the bar. Right, so yes, you can go into the bands, but you can't just throw it on without taking the weight off. That's still going to be there. All right, so here's just reinforcing the triples. Focus just on the technical things, because this is that middle of that, so the ribs are the big one. So squeeze, good. Now get this up high, high, there. See, I should not be able to move you. Go, hit it, down, up, hit it, good. Up, hit it, good.
I've just, the way I've been benching for so long has been a really controlled eccentric, and I've never exploded up. Like I'm moving weight up like way slower, which shows me I think I'm strong because I'm doing it that way, but I'm not using a lot of force.
When you miss your bench, where do you normally miss it?
I'll probably get off a couple inches from the chest, like right around from here to here.
All right, so hold your arms right where you miss it, typically right around there. Okay, so right there is where you normally miss, right? Okay, go ahead and lie down there, but don't grab the bar. Just gonna show you something here. So just put your hands where you would normally miss. Okay, so let's say, just as a visual, we're gonna test this. So we're gonna say probably a little bit higher than a 3 board. So, So right about there, so about a 4 board. So here's what I want you to think about. If this is where that sticking point is, drop your arms back down to the ground, or back down to the bottom like when you're benching. So the bar's on your chest, take the bar to your chest. Here. Now, if you move your hands up slow like you normally press, and then it hit that board, what's gonna happen if I'm holding this and not letting you push? You're just gonna get stuck, right? Now what if you brought your hands back down, so you had a bar in your air, and now you push it into this board as hard as you can.
Drive it, yeah.
Okay, now what's gonna happen? This is gonna get absorbed, right? You either, if you're super fast, you'll break through the board.
Yeah.
More than likely, it's gonna go, you're gonna bump me up. So where's that sticking point again? It was right about here, right? So now if you went into that a little bit faster, here's your sticking point.
Yeah.
Which is a lot easier to develop that sticking point because that's a lockout than a midpoint sticking point, which is one of the hardest to develop.
That makes a lot of sense.
So that's that force development. Same thing with if it's an overhead or if it's a log, where's that sticking point at? What if you were able to go into it just a little bit faster? But you're telling me things like, well, I always normally press at this phase. Yeah. You know, which means you're always normally pressing into that at that same speed.
And you know, what's interesting too is I'm a fairly decent overhead presser, and the reason I think now is because I use a lot more force in the overhead press. Like I'm using my leg drive, I'm doing the jerk, but the bench press I don't do that at all.
Yes.
Like I can 100% say when I do this, the bench press, I come down super slow eccentric, and then as I come up, it's just like that. Like, so there's no force involved with it.
Yes, yes. So we'll do another set here.
Gotta get this chest up high.
Yeah. High. There you go. Good. Hit it. There you go. Good. Down up. Fast. Good. Good. There you go.
I feel like my best set. Yeah. Just nuts. Alright, same thing here.
Good. Hold. Ribs. There. Go. Fast. Hit it. Hit it. Good. All right. So if we're going through what I would call a conjugate training session, then I'm using that first exercise. And if it's somebody that's out here training, I'm watching the first exercise to see what the weak point is, what's off, what's going on. So I want the second thing to be either something that's going to address that weak point, or with a bench, its tricep would normally fall in there. Yours is just that force development, just getting in your head for that maximum force. So the second exercise I would have you actually do would be med ball throws, rebounders, just to get used to boom, hitting off of that bottom, you know. Or it could be, I don't like things like, you could do plyometric push-ups and stuff like that, but I want more, you know, the fatigue rate, that's more of an eccentric than what some of the other things will be. So I would put that in immediately, right? Because what we don't know is, at this point, is this just a neural thing, that you have that explosive strength component, you just haven't put one and one together to really make it fit. And it could definitely be that, where one more bench session, dynamic session, and it's there. I'm tending to think it probably is that. So it's more a neuro efficiency, just a reconnection type of thing, where putting that in there will help to reconnect that. Now, if it's not that, right, and that, I mean, this is glaring. So this is
for sure,
If it wasn't that, and if it was, say, something tricep related, then that movement for the tricep would go in there. If it was something stability related, you could never get it tight or stable at the top. Or then it would be something lat related. Or no matter what, you couldn't get that rib cage to pop up. It may also be there, again, something lat related. And it's going to be it's going to be that next exercise of that day. Right? And then during the second training session of that week, that would be for push or however the program's developed, I would also have it in there. So then by the next time the speed bench comes back through, we'll see if there's a difference or not. Right? And if that difference is profound, you know, like, holy shit, now every rep, boom, 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 you're just hitting it, then that was not a muscular weak point, which this, I'm already concerned, but let's say it is that shoulder, right? Let's say you're taking it out, you just can't get it stable, or the rib. I'll go with the ribs.
Yeah.
Let's say it's the ribs. You just cannot keep the ribs up. Then that second movement would be something to be able to, like a low row, something with a handle that's going to force you to do that.
Okay.
That would go second, you know, just for higher repetitions, just to reinforce what you're doing. Then it would go in that next training session during the week. Then on that next bench session, if boom, every single one of those, it sticks and it's there, then it's not strength of the upper back.
Yeah.
Where some people, you know, like I said, it can either be technical, physical, or mental. I want to go after the technical part, low-hanging fruit, the easiest thing to do. See if it's that, throw it in there. It's fixed the next time you come in. Because sooner or later, there is going to be a glaring muscular weakness that's going to take some type of phasic structure to build up. Say if it's, at first I was thinking because this was falling back a little bit, it'd be something like a JM press that would have to be second to be able to you know, to take the shoulder rotation out, keep more tricep extension in, and then that discussion would be, okay, how are you going to wave in a JM press to be able to build that strength up over a 3 or 5 week period of time? Problem is that would take 3 to 5 weeks to be able to know the result of that, right? So, or if it was that same issue here, then we're going to work on something to be able to neurally connect that, see if it hits in that first week, because it can be fixed in a week. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like a lot of people will see something and say, oh, you just need stronger shoulders, and then you're going to start doing stronger shoulder work. It could be your shoulders just aren't firing the way they're supposed to be because you just aren't connecting it. So they do the strength work to build that up over 5 weeks, and then the shit's still there. It's like, okay, it took you 5 weeks to figure out if this is going to work, then it didn't work. Meanwhile, you could have done this to rule it all out, which still may end up having to be. That you understand what I'm saying?
No, I get you. My thing too, like a question is like, so if I'm doing say accessory work or I'm doing a like a secondary lift, should I always be trying to put the max force production into those lifts as well?
No.
Okay.
No, for you, yes. Now.
Well, for me, now. That's what I mean. Like.
But no, no. Once you get off that dynamic work, I would take some of that out.
It's not like that.
But it will happen though. I mean, because you're going to do certain movements, you're going to get a few reps and you're going to that's fine. That's cool, but that intent isn't going to really be, you know, for that.